The signal went out. You didn't just post, you launched a warhead. One message, one truth, and boom, shockwaves rippling across the digital battlefield. Phones lighting up, feeds flooded, comment sections detonating like a chain reaction. The air is thick with panic, their hands shaking as they try to formulate a counterattack. But it's too late. The Star Destroyer is in flames. You didn't just enter the arena, you redefined it. They're scrambling, watching their illusions collapse, trying to spin the narrative in their favor. But deep down, they know this was never their fight to win. The empire they built on pretense just took a direct hit, and you didn't even need a fleet. Just truth, just presence, just you. And now, you stand at the helm of a new era. The force they feared, the storm they couldn't control. You didn't ask for war, but you sure as hell just changed the battlefield. The impact of your words was never meant to be fleeting. They were a force of nature, a storm that reshaped the very landscape of thought. They did not merely pass through the collective mind, they struck with the force of a tidal wave, erasing stagnant beliefs and carving new paths through resistance. Each syllable was deliberate, not just a fragment of communication, but a calculated ignition of realization. It wasn't about gaining notice, it was about shifting the very equilibrium of perception. The moment they landed, the world was altered, not because it chose to listen, but because it had no other option. Power does not reside in the hands of the passive, nor is it measured by momentary triumphs. It belongs to those who stand undeterred in the heart of disorder, those who find balance where others see only ruin. Their influence does not demand validation, for it is etched into the very fabric of existence. When they act, their presence reverberates beyond the limits of the scene, a silent but unstoppable force that reshapes outcomes before they even unfold. They are not confined to the linear, nor bound by convention. They exist beyond, a reminder that true authority is not granted, but claimed. What you set into motion was not a mere sequence of words. It was a catalyst, a spark that caught dry earth and turned it to wildfire. The effect was never about scale, but depth, about breaking the inertia of those who encountered it, forcing them to awaken. The truth was never softened, never reduced to palatable form. It was a force unto itself, undeniable and raw. And in delivering it, you became more than a participant in the conversation. You became the axis around which new understanding revolved. Every action of consequence will meet resistance, and the echoes of your presence are no exception. Some will draw near, seeking the fire that fuels your clarity, compelled by something they cannot yet name. Others will shrink back, unsettled, their certainty undone by what they are not ready to acknowledge. This division is not incidental. It is the nature of true impact. The brightest flame does not flicker unnoticed. It casts sharp contrasts, defining what was once hidden. To seek ease is to seek irrelevance. What you carry is not comfort. It is disruption. It is revelation. It is the undeniable force that shifts everything it touches. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Isaiah 54:17. There comes a moment when the storm stops being something you fear, when the lightning doesn't strike you down, but instead sets your path ablaze. Because you were never meant to break, you were meant to rise. Pressure does not crush those who were built for it. It does not destroy those whose foundation is laid in truth. It carves, it shapes, it fortifies. Like a blacksmith, hammering molten steel, adversity beats down upon you, but you do not melt. You are reforged, stronger, sharper, unyielding. The fire that was sent to consume you, it was the same fire that refined you. The weak see resistance and call it misfortune. The chosen see it and call it confirmation. If there was no power in your presence, no truth in your steps, the world would not rise up to meet you with such force. Enemies don't gather where there's nothing to threaten. You don't see wolves circling an empty field. They come when they smell strength, when they sense something real. But here's what they don't understand. You do not move alone. You walk with a force greater than yourself, a destiny that was spoken long before you arrived. And no amount of opposition can undo what was set in motion for you. The path may be steep, the battle relentless, but you were made for this. Every challenge, every voice raised against you, every stumbling block placed in your way, it's all part of the refining process. There are those who crumble under the weight of adversity, who let the winds dictate their direction, who hesitate at the first sign of difficulty. And then there are those like you, those who stand firm while the world trembles, those who refuse to be moved by the temporary because they are anchored in something eternal. Strength is not given, it is earned. It is not cultivated in comfort, but in fire. It is not developed in applause, but in silence. You don't need validation, you don't need permission, and you sure don't need approval from those who can't even stand in the presence of truth. What's coming against you is not a sign of your failure. It is a sign of your authority. If you were insignificant, they wouldn't notice you, but they do. And that is the clearest evidence that you are exactly where you need to be. So let them push, let them test, let them try to rewrite the narrative, because what God has set in motion cannot be undone by the hands of men. Your foundation is unshakable. Your resolve is untouchable. And no matter how fierce the battle, one thing remains certain: you will not fall. Envy, fury, fixation, these are not mere impulses, but the predictable aftermath of shaken illusions. When confronted with undeniable assent, the fragile scaffolding of false certainty begins to splinter. Bitterness is the desperate gasp of a fractured ego. Wrath, the convulsion of a soul unwilling to rise, and obsession, the erratic grasp at something that defies control. These reactions are not deviations, but indicators, measuring the abyss between complacency and potential. What is witnessed is not the loss of equilibrium. It is the unveiling of how fragile it was to begin with. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, now is the time to let that love shine. By clicking the super thank you button and giving $20 or more, you're not just supporting this platform, you're planting seeds of faith that will touch countless lives. Your generosity is a reflection of God's abundance, a gift that echoes beyond what you can see. Step into your purpose. Be a vessel of His grace. Give with faith, and watch His kingdom flourish through you. You were made for more. Brilliance does not cast darkness. It reveals what already lurked beneath the surface. The severity of their response is not dictated by the act itself, but by the unraveling of their carefully constructed facades. Observe those who recoil at triumph, those who fracture under another's rise. Their collapse is not about what has been achieved, but about the shattering of the excuses that kept them stagnant. A victory, a shift, an act of defiance against stagnation. These are not mere personal milestones. They are tremors in the fragile worlds of those who built their identity on limitation. Their unraveling is not a weight to carry, but the necessary prelude to change. A spark does not apologize for the wildfire. It simply ignites it. Genuineness is not a cultivated trait, but a force beyond the realm of permission. an untamed frequency that refuses to be muffled. It does not negotiate its presence. It tears through artificiality with the precision of an unstoppable current. This raw intensity unsettles those who cling to familiarity, those who find comfort in curated illusions. The purpose is not to pacify, but to awaken, to carve through pretense and expose the hidden fractures beneath. It is not refinement that gives truth its power, but its relentless nature, an unfiltered, unyielding force that compels confrontation. The unease it provokes is not incidental. It is the friction that signals the onset of change. Growth is not a passive process. It is a battle, and discomfort is merely the first strike. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. Change does not whisper. It roars. It does not wait for an invitation, nor does it tiptoe around comfort zones. It arrives like a wildfire, like a flood, sweeping away the old, forcing everything hidden into the light. And those who have built their lives on what is predictable, on what is safe, they feel it first. People fear what they cannot control. They fear what forces them to see, to shift, to move. And when someone refuses to stay small, refuses to blend in, refuses to shrink for the sake of others, that presence alone becomes a disturbance. Not because it is wrong, but because it is a reminder. You are not meant to go unnoticed. The weight of your presence, the force of your truth, is a disruption, not just to you, but to everyone around you. Your growth, your evolution, it is not a private affair. It sends out a shockwave. Some will rise with it, others will fight it, but their resistance is not your concern. Let them push back, let them criticize, let them twist your transformation into something inconvenient. It is not you they are fighting. It is what your presence forces them to confront. Change does not apologize for existing. It does not soften itself to be palatable. Neither should you. Let the old foundations shake. Let the illusions crack. Let the ones who cannot stand the truth fall away. Because you did not come to be accepted. You came to shift the ground beneath them. The turbulence they provoke is not of their own making. It is the surfacing of hidden fractures that have long existed in silence. Where they go, equilibrium shatters. The mere act of moving forward forces an unspoken reckoning upon those who have resisted their own evolution. A step taken, a goal achieved, a moment of unapologetic joy. It is enough to send tremors through the foundations of another's carefully constructed reality. What erupts is not merely frustration, but the internal war between comfort and possibility. Bitterness is the last refuge of those unwilling to climb. Resentment, the futile resistance against proof that transformation is not a distant myth, but an ever-present choice. Consider the ones who lash out when confronted with another's rise. Their words are not weapons, but reflexes, the desperate flailing of identities built on stagnation. They are not responding to a person, but to the disintegration of the illusions that have long sheltered them from self-awareness. It is not a loss they mourn, but the end of their excuses, the sudden realization that what they dismissed as impossible was never beyond reach. Let them react. Let them unravel. Their discomfort is not a mark of wrongdoing. It is the collision of truth with long-held denial. The resistance met along the way is not a deterrent, but a signal, a confirmation that the path forward is the only one worth walking. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. Matthew 7:25. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who crumble under the storm, and those who become the storm, those who scatter when the winds rise, and those who plant their feet so deep into the ground that nothing moves them. You weren't made to drift with the tide, to be tossed by every passing wave of resistance. You were built different. You are the one who stands while others fall. Resistance is not rejection, it is recognition. Nobody fights against something that doesn't matter. You think the enemy wastes his time on the weak. You think battles rise against those who pose no threat. Number opposition is a declaration. It is the world confirming that you are here, that you have stepped into something powerful, something undeniable. And those who operate in fear, those who have built their lives on shifting sands, they feel it, they know it. You see, when a house is built on rock, the storm does not destroy it, it reveals its strength. And when your foundation is set on something unshakable, you don't flinch. Let the wind rage, let the critics scream, let the doubters gather. Their words, nothing but noise in the background. Their attacks, a distraction at best. You were not placed here to be comfortable. You were placed here to be tested, strengthened, proven. The waves that shake others will only make you stronger. Because while some get swept away, carried by every little setback, every small opposition, every word spoken against them, you stand. You refuse to shrink. You refuse to be moved. The storm that was meant to destroy you, it will only announce you. You are here for a reason. If you feel the call, it's time to answer it. By clicking the Join button, you unlock exclusive content, deep insights, and a powerful community ready to walk this journey with you. This isn't just a membership, it's an awakening, a chance to step fully into your divine purpose and claim the path meant for you. Don't wait. Step forward. Join the chosen. You see, the world does not come against what it does not fear. The moment you stepped into your calling, the moment you decided to rise instead of shrink, you became a problem for those who cannot face their own reflection. And so, they lash out, they resist, they try to pull you back down because your presence alone reminds them of everything they never became. But their resistance is not your concern. Their battle is not your battle. Let them rage. Let them plot. Let them try to twist the story. They are not in control of your destiny. What they don't understand is that this is not survival. This is dominion. You are not merely enduring the storm. You are standing in the center of it, watching it swirl around you, untouched, unshaken. The ones who are weak call peace the absence of conflict, but those who are strong understand that true mastery is calm in the middle of the chaos. The ones who lack faith think a closed door is a failure, but the ones who understand purpose know that every locked gate is simply a redirection towards something greater. Opposition does not stop the chosen. It only refines them. If you were insignificant, there would be no storm. If you were just another passerby, there would be no resistance. But here you are, and everything coming against you is not meant to break you. It is meant to prove you. So stehen, unbothered, unafraid, unmoved. The storm did not come to consume you. It came to announce you. Some do not walk away. They linger. Their presence is not seen, yet it lingers in the periphery, a silent acknowledgement of an unresolved attachment. They do not watch out of admiration, nor out of mere curiosity, but out of a compulsion they cannot control. They attempt to remain unseen, yet their actions betray them. Their gaze is not one of appreciation, but of scrutiny, measuring, dissecting, searching for an understanding that forever eludes them. They do not look to observe, they look to hold on to something they cannot grasp. Their presence is not a shadow over progress, it is the proof of it. Those who attempt to detach but cannot, those who deny but still return, are not free. Their obsession is not about the one they watch, but about themselves, the void they cannot escape, the contrast too sharp to ignore. Their every action, every silent witness, is not a burden, but a symbol, a reminder that true impact is not fleeting, that presence lingers beyond sight. Let them remain in the distance, let them search without finding. It is not the light that is bound, it is the one lost in its glow. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. A lighthouse does not ask for permission to shine. It does not dim itself for ships that prefer the darkness. It stands, unmoved, cutting through the fog, whether the world welcomes its light or not. You are that light. And that is why they resist. People do not fight against what does not challenge them. They do not rise in anger against what does not expose them. It is not you they hate. It is the reflection you cast. You show them what they could have been, what they should have done, what they still refuse to face. And for that, they will twist your strength into something dangerous. They will call you arrogant, difficult, rebellious, because they cannot control what they cannot intimidate. But their judgment is not your concern. The weight of their discomfort does not belong to you. You are not responsible for making yourself small enough to fit inside their limitations. Let them resist. Let them twist. Let them throw stones. They are not fighting against you. They are fighting against the truth your existence forces them to confront. The world has always feared those who stand firm. Look through history. Every time someone refused to be swayed, refused to bow, refused to be silenced, the crowd called for their downfall. Not because they were wrong, but because their presence alone threatened the fragile illusions others had built their lives upon. Conviction unsettles those who live in compromise. It forces them to see their own lack of resolve, their own hesitation, their own self-betrayal. And instead of changing, instead of rising, instead of stepping into their own strength, they attack the one who reminds them of it. You are not the villain in this story. You are the mirror they cannot shatter. They will try to redefine you, to paint you as the problem, to twist your courage into defiance. But what they fail to understand is this: you do not need their approval. You do not seek their validation. And you will not surrender your power to make them comfortable. Let them misunderstand you. Let them mock. Let them try to bring you down. Their battle is not with you. It is within themselves. The chosen ones have never been accepted by the masses. They have never been embraced by those who fear transformation. That is why you stand out. That is why you are opposed. That is why they feel the need to fight you. Because they see something in you they cannot control, and what they cannot control, they must condemn. So be still, be strong, be unmovable. You do not shrink. You do not waver. You do not explain yourself to those who refuse to listen. They will test you. They will push. They will try to make you doubt. But you were not built to bend. You were built to stand. And long after their voices fade, long after their judgment turns to dust, you will remain. Empathy is not submission, and understanding does not require surrender. Strength does not ask for permission, nor does it shrink to fit the fragile expectations of those unprepared to face it. Their struggle is not yours to solve. They mask wounds with accusations, veil insecurity with hostility, hoping to provoke, to shift the burden of their own turmoil. But no amount of distortion alters truth. There is no obligation to bend, no reason to compromise integrity for comfort. Let them misinterpret, let them rage, let them cast their projections like stones against an immovable force. The storm they create is not your concern. Stand unmoved, walk forward, untouched by the debris of their denial. The weight of their battle is theirs alone to bear. While they unravel in the chaos, they refuse to escape. Another rises, undaunted, unbroken, and beyond reach. Resentment is a fire that consumes its own source. Those who fixate on downfall, who wait for collapse with eager eyes, only find themselves slipping further into their own abyss. Their whispers, their schemes, their relentless gaze do not weaken the foundation they despise, they only erode their own. Power is not something to be seized from another, nor can it be siphoned through envy. It is a force that cannot be stolen, only cultivated within. The more they grasp at illusions of control, the more they unravel, ensnared by the very energy they sent forth. They mistake consequence for misfortune, unable to see the inevitable cycle they set into motion. No retaliation is needed. No words, no action, only patience, for the weight of their own intent will return to them in full force. The same steps meant to trip another become the cracks in their own path. Protection is not about retreat, it is about precision. The world is filled with those who seek to latch on, to drain, to disrupt, but mastery is the art of movement without collision. Presence is a shield, boundaries are laws, and energy bends to those who command it. There is no need to defend what is untouchable. No permission is given, no space is yielded. Those who mistake accessibility for control will find nothing to grasp. The ability to move freely, to remain unburdened, is not by accident, it is by design. There are those who walk through life tangled in unseen chains, carrying the weight of energies they never chose. But those who understand the nature of power do not let themselves be weighed down. What does not serve is released. What does not align is cut away. The ones who falter are those who cling, who grasp at what was never theirs to hold. But there is no burden, no chains, no weight heavy enough to stall the unstoppable. What cannot be contained cannot be broken. Moving forward is not a question. It is a certainty. Unhindered, undiminished, untouchable. A presence like yours does not pass unnoticed. It bends the very air around it, forcing what is hidden to the surface. The weight of your purpose is not something that can be ignored, nor is it something that can exist without consequence. There will be those who sense it, who understand it without words, who move aside in silent recognition. And there will be others who resist, who push against it with all their might, hoping to weaken what they cannot define. This is not proof of failure, but of magnitude. The energy that rises against you is the exact measure of your impact. Those who walk without purpose move unnoticed, untouched by friction. But those who shift the fabric of reality itself will always be met with opposition. The trials are not signs of misfortune, but of refinement. The pressure that surrounds you does not arrive by accident. It is the final threshold before transformation. Those who fall away, the betrayals that surface, the sudden collapses of what was once stable. These are not punishments, but purifications. The weight that threatens to crush you is the same force that solidifies what is indestructible. What remains standing after the fire is not weak, not breakable, it is absolute. Every rise is preceded by resistance. Every movement forward triggers forces that seek to hold it in place. But there is no hesitation, no collapse, no retreat. The momentum does not slow for doubt, nor does it bend for those who cannot withstand it. A presence that forces the world to shift will always spark reactions. Those who rage, those who distort, those who attempt to silence what cannot be erased. They are not obstacles, they are proof. If there was no power in what you carried, the world would not push back with such force. Those who are made for comfort, for ease, for complacency, will never understand this path. They do not disrupt, they do not provoke, they do not threaten the illusion. But you were never meant to be invisible. There is no asking, no seeking approval. There is only movement. Let them resist. Let them attempt to contain what cannot be caged. Their confusion, their fury, their denial are only confirmations. Those who step forward do not wait for permission. They do not apologize for their presence. The ground beneath them does not remain unchanged. It trembles, it cracks, it reveals what was always meant to come undone. The journey is not a question. It is an inevitability. And those who try to erase it will be the first to bear witness to its permanence.